if you've made it this far, I'm going to give you a code. If you do not already have a free ticket as a member, many of our members get in for free at different levels, then I'm going to give you a code, and I'm not going to put it into the description, but I have a certain amount of tickets that I can give away for free, and here's my code. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Grizz Griswold, Head of Marketing for FINOS. Hope you're doing well. It's been a while since we've had a podcast come out. It's been, to say busy this year is an understatement. And I feel like I say that all the time. But FINOS, the FinTech Open Source Foundation, we've been going through this tremendous amount of growth really since 2020, and it's just continued to compound, which is really becoming an embarrassment of riches. And that's okay. But anyway, my role, my team's role, the ability to get things out the way that we'd love to is a little bit harder. So I'm going ahead and doing this podcast now. I've got a couple of podcasts that are coming up soon with speakers from OSFF. But I wanted to talk to you about OSFF New York. That's the Open Source and Finance Forum, New York. That's happening on October 21st and 22nd this year, 2025. And this is our flagship conference. We did one earlier this year in London in June, and it was tremendous. So we had more speakers than we'd ever had before. We've had more attendees than we've ever had before, and it continues to grow. And coming from open source the way that I have, it's incredible to watch how the banking industry has started to really embrace. I've said this so many times. They've really started to embrace not only consuming open source, but also contributing back to it. And not just contributing people and full-time employees to it, but also contributing projects. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But the other side of it is then the technology companies and the consultancies and the companies that support these banks. They get involved within this ecosystem as well. And we really start to see not only banks working with other banks legally in a good way to do better, but we also see that the vendors and everybody that is in that ecosystem actually support the same projects that support the banks, but then they build on top of these projects and continue to find better ways to actually be not only better stewards of open source, but then monetize what they do even better by using open source for good. That's been incredible to see over the past, I think, 8 years I've been doing this, but especially in the past 5 years, the amount of growth. The amount of growth of OSFF since its beginning in 2017 to now, I don't even know how many we've done, but we've now, at this one in New York, we're looking to have over 1,000 people there. And I just want to mention first the companies that are helping us get there, because I would be remiss to not talk about our sponsors besides our members. Like, some of these sponsors are members as well of FINOS, but then some of them are actually sister foundations to us in the Linux Foundation. Our leader sponsors are the Confidential Computing Consortium. They will actually have an entire track that they are curating the talks right now that will be released very shortly. And they're going to be talking about security, but we will get in that in another time, because I really want to see all the talks that they have coming out, and I'll tell you about that later. The FinOps Foundation, we've had an incredible relationship with JR and Steve over there, and Kevin, and really all the team. And it's funny because FINOS and FinOps came into the Linux Foundation at the same time. So it has been literally a running joke that you cannot tell who's who, but we really do separate things. But they will be on stage. You'll be able to meet them. And again, we'll talk about them another time. Red Hat. When I helped start All Things Open in Raleigh about 1,000 years ago, it seems like maybe 11, 12 years ago, we positioned ourselves 2-3 blocks away from the Red Hat headquarters, and really helped each other, I think, grow open source within Raleigh. And you'll see that if you go to my friend's conference, All Things Open, in Raleigh in October of this year also. Shout out to Todd. That's an incredible event with thousands of people, and it's all the things open source. And Red Hat has been an incredible champion of that conference, but of also of FINOS and our conference as well. So happy to see our member Red Hat as a leader sponsor of OSFF as well. Our contributor sponsors, GitLab, great company, great member. My buddy Lee will actually be in town in Columbia, South Carolina for Parents Weekend. Kids actually go to college together, and we didn't really know each other until all of this came together through FINOS. So happy to see GitLab as a contributor sponsor. OpenSSF. OpenSSF will actually have a half track that's within the Guarding the Vault security track portion as well. They are all about open source security, open source supply chain security, really on the policy side. So you should definitely check them out. Splunk just came in. They're a Cisco company. Splunk just came in, geez, I think about 3 days ago as a contributor level sponsor. I know a little bit about Splunk, but I continue to learn more. They have sponsored before, and we're happy to have them here. Temporal. Temporal is another one of our members, their contributor sponsor. So happy to have them. We have a blog post coming out from them very shortly, and they will also have a talk at OSFF. vCluster, new this year. I don't know anything about them yet. And what's kind of fun for me as a marketer is to meet some of these sponsors in person through their booths, but then try to understand exactly, forget the membership side, like who are they trying to attract, whether it's they're selling something or whether they're trying to bring in new employees. I'm always interested to see how our sponsors are engaging with our community, to see not only how do they engage there, but then how do they continue to engage later on, whether through our conferences, membership, or even through our projects, which is always the goal that we have, is to have these companies involved with our projects. And then our community sponsors. Capital One, great member. Gradle has sponsored with us for many years. Interrupt.io, totally involved in FTC3. Juxt, a newer member that came in last year. Same thing with Cosley. The Linux Foundation education side of the house. They help us do training, and happy to have them there. Modern, Open Logic by Perforce. Oracle just came in and just saw that I believe that the owner of Oracle is now, Larry Ellison is now the richest person in the planet. So congratulations to them. Sauce Labs, Seal Security, Solo.io, Sonatype, Sousa, Synadia, and Tetrate. Happy to have all of them on board with us. And if you listened all the way through all of those companies, I appreciate it, because listen, if they were not here, then we would not be able to do the conference. It's expensive to do conferences in New York and London, and without their support, we couldn't do this. So thank you again to them. Now, let's talk a little bit about the conference itself. This is a day-and-a-half conference in New York City. And what we've always tried to do is bring together open source, financial services, and then, like I said, the ecosystem that surrounds financial services and supports also open source projects. So here we are. And again, doing this since 2017, as far as we know, we are the only conference that is in this space. I'm not saying that you should compete, but listen, this is a space that is ripe for opportunity. It's a space that's ripe for more banks to be involved, more vendors within the ecosystem for banks to be involved in financial services, fintechs, regtechs. You should come to the conference, first of all, but you should be involved with the community, because this is just like a highlight conference of everything that happens on a daily basis. We will have announcements. I know of one large announcement that is coming out on the 21st about a new project that a lot of people and a lot of companies will be interested in. Can't say anymore. But we have smaller announcements as well, as we use the conference for our open source projects to do releases and be able to put that in front of the community and financial services in general, that this isn't just about open source technology, it's technology. Technology is built off of open source at this point. And so we niche down to open source, but the truth, like all your technology that you're running within your banks, capital markets, retail, doesn't matter. It's running off of open source. So if you're a technologist, whether you're a software engineer and coding every day, or having Copilot help code with you, or if you were a technology management person, managing director at a bank that, is dealing with technology, you should be here, because we start to get not only into what is mainstream and what you need to have a foundation on, but we start getting into the cutting edge and where you should be growing as well. Let's talk about the flow of the day and a half. Day one starts in the afternoon, starts at 1 o'clock. And the way that we've put this together is that we have keynotes that get on stage. One of our first keynotes is actually Frank Nagel, came from Harvard University. He now works for the Linux Foundation, but Frank kind of will help set the stage of why open source is valuable and what's the ROI associated with open source within technology in the first place, but also specifically within financial services. We will have other keynotes that we'll announce as well. We'll do announcements on the different projects that will be announced there. And anyway, so more surprises on the keynotes later. But let's talk about the actual tracks. And I won't go into specific talks, really, but I will talk about the tracks themselves and why we've set them up the way they have been. So the first day we have 5 tracks, and the first day is really set around FINOS. We want to show you what's up and coming within FINOS, and then we want to show you some of the strategic initiatives that have been driving FINOS for a while. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the Forge. So the Forge is a track it's about shaping new ideas and projects. And it's where brand new ideas for FINOS are taking shape. And the concepts and the projects at the very beginning of their journey, it's before the incubation stage of open source projects. Now, the sessions here are going to explore concepts such as Open SDLC Controls framework for financial services. There's going to be a talk called Secure by Design, and that's going to demonstrate how the project COM and AI Governance Framework and Common Cloud Controls can be combined to rapidly build secure and compliant architectures. There's going to be a new open source data commons platform that's going to be talked about. And then we're also going to have Mike from Causley, or actually it might be someone else from Causley now, talking about evolution at scale. And that's a new work group that's coming out of the DevOps automation SIG. So speakers will be from Causley, Morgan Stanley, Sonatype, and Red Hat. And this is a track that's going to give business leaders the ability and the chance to evaluate and influence initiatives that may grow into tomorrow's standards. It's ground floor opportunity is what we're talking about. The next track is the Launchpad, and we go from these ideas to more fully formed open source projects. And on an open source maturity curve for projects, not just companies, you have to have the ideation. Then you move into how do we make this thing go? And I was doing an interview with somebody the other day, and he was talking about how, he's now a maintainer of a project that's been around for 7 years. And he's also the CEO of a company that helps support that project, but was talking about the early days of, I've got this idea. I think that he said, I'm writing all these scripts for myself. Why don't I just put them out there to see if other people can use them as well? That's the ideation point, and to figure out whether other people would use it. That's the Forge part. But then the next part of it is this incubating period of an open source project, where it's usually one maintainer working on it as a side project, because again, it's fulfilling a need within their lives. And they're like, oh, it would be great if it helps other people, maybe, but also it'd be great if some other people would help me. And so that's where the incubating projects are. And in our case in FINOS, this is called the Launchpad Incubating FINOS Projects. So for us, the Launchpad track is going to showcase projects that have been cleared through our technical oversight committee or talk and are now building momentum on their way to maturity. And the sessions are going to spotlight, you probably hear COM a few times here, COM, and also the FINOS AI Governance Framework and then Common Cloud Controls, or CCC. There are many CCCs, there are many FinUps and FINOSs, and Open SSFs, and Open, or Open SFFs and Open SSFs here today throughout the conference, but this is Common Cloud Controls, which was a project that was started by Citi a couple of years ago. We're also going to have, our new project is going to be, that we're going to unveil at the conference, is going to be unveiled on stage that day as well. So we're going to have speakers from Fidelity, from Hitachi, from Tetra, and from Morgan Stanley. You'll hear a lot of Morgan Stanley, by the way. And this track gives business leaders the chance to evaluate emerging solutions before they scale. And it offers developers a direct way to engage with the maintainers and help shape tomorrow's standards. So whether you were on the business side or business technology side or on the developer side, this is a place to really pay attention. All right. So now we're going to get from the beginning stages to more of our strategic initiatives. And the first one is the CDM. And this is called Ushering a New Era with the Common Domain Model. And the Common Domain Model has been within FINOS, I believe, for about the past 3 years. And it was brought together by 3 organizations, ISDA, ICMA, and ISLA. And those were international standards conglomerates or consortiums that found commonplace things that, that they needed to standardize. And actually, let me tell you about the track, because then it tells the story of CDM. So the Common Domain Model it's rapidly becoming a cornerstone for how financial institutions standardize the representation of trades, assets, and processes. And it's no longer just a concept. The CDM is really being adopted and applied to real-world cases, creating new efficiencies, transparency, and opportunities for innovation. Now, this track is going to highlight its accelerating impact of the CDM, and the sessions will talk about the CDM's progress over the past year, the eligible collateral representation, digital bond issuance, and the integration of tokenized assets and smart contracts into collateral management. Our speakers are going to be from ISDA, which is the International Swaps and Derivatives Association. ICMA, or ICMA actually, is the International Capital Market Association, and also Tokenovate. And our friend Ian, that used to work full-time with us, is now working for Tokenovate, so we're happy to see him again. But this is a place to see how the CDM is ushering in a new era of global capital markets. It's interesting thinking about the first time that we had the CDM as I don't think we had it as a track. We had it as like a couple of talks in New York a couple of years ago. You could not get those people to leave the room. Really, you could not get the people to leave the room because they wanted to keep going and the speakers would not stop talking. And as a conference organizer, I was annoyed, and they know this, so it's not a secret. But the amount of time and devotion and energy that's put into the CDM by these organizations, and now other organizations that, again, that are coming from the ecosystem, is incredible to see. So if they go a little bit over time, it's normal for them. But just note that we've got an entire track of 4 talks, and we actually have a talk on day 2 that we'll talk about later on. Like, it's a passionate group, and you'll get a lot out of it. All right, moving on. FTC3, open source as the connective tissue of financial services. FTC3, it's no longer just a concept, just like CDM is no longer just a concept. It's really an open standard for powering real-world interoperability across the financial desktop, and that's the trader desktop. So major platforms now hold FTC3 2.0 conformance certification, including BlackRock's Aladdin and Morgan Stanley's Compose UI. This is a standard that has been gaining momentum, and it's not just something that a couple of different companies work on. And again, I remember the early days of FTC3 and just thinking, oh, wow, there's 3 vendors that are doing this thing. And why is this important? It's important because capital markets banks use this standard now all the time in order to have their trader desktop apps speak to each other, and not just desktop anymore. It's actually moving to the web as well. And leading platforms like LSEG, London Stock Exchange Group, and S&P Global Market Intelligence have publicly confirmed their use of FTC3 as well. And this track brings together forward-looking sessions, including bridging the gap, the creation of a connected AI ecosystem, and voice-driven agent interfaces. And I believe that Rob Moffat, that works with us, is going to actually preview the upcoming FTC 3 2.3 release. You didn't hear it from me. All right. And so we'll have speakers from interop.io, JP Morgan Chase, Elgin White, and of course, FINOS. And this is where you'll be able to experience how FTC3 is becoming the backbone of industry-wide desktop interoperability. All right. And the final track of the day is around open source readiness. OSR, supercharge your open source journey. Now, open source readiness is probably the most common on-ramp for banks to join FINOS. And open source readiness we started this 9 years ago now, 8 to 9 years ago, in order to really help banks understand their consumption and their contribution policies and within open source. And what we've seen over the past 8, 9 years is, I think that we really started to notice this more in 2021 when we saw 11 banks bring out OSPOs, open source program offices. And the OSPOs are where, if you're measuring your open source contribution and you're measuring your open source consumption, and then figuring out how your employees can actually be involved with open source one way or another, consuming, contributing, also getting into the kind of non-security side of the open source. Where am I going here? The open source supply chain security. I'll probably just leave that in. Like, it's important for companies to understand on a policy side what open source they're actually using that underpins their technology. And that is what an OSPO, that's one of the things the OSPO works on. So it's open source readiness was a program that was built in order to handle that journey, especially for a bank. And it's providing a playbook for best practices that vendors and partners can adopt to meet financial institutions where they are within that journey. So this track is going to deliver practical strategies from leaders at Morgan Stanley, Fannie Mae, Fidelity, TD Bank, and FINOS. And it's going to cover how to scale open source programs across complex organizations, govern licenses at scale, and establish a successful OSPO. And there's some case studies in there, and especially we just added one from TD Bank from Mark Paulson. I'm so happy to see him there. And this track closes with lightning talks from FINOS on member success, project marketing, and ambassador engagement and developer engagement. All of this is designed to help institutions and vendors alike maximize their return on their open source journey. That's what FINOS was built on from the very beginning. And that's something that we will always have as one of our main pillars, whether it's a strategic initiative or not. It's why we exist. So I'm going to stop there. That's day one in a nutshell. We'll have a reception on site. There'll be plenty of opportunities for networking. And the best track of all is always the hallway track. And that's where you have the ability to talk to other people that might be peers at the organizations that you compete with, might be peers at the organizations that are your customers or are your vendors. Or they just might be like that. I've never seen a point to where any of our speakers were inaccessible from everybody else at the conference. And that's something that I can tell you, helping build a conference that I can't name anymore just because legally we're not allowed to, but a conference that we did in Columbia, South Carolina around open source. And then another conference, All Things Open, and then this conference as well. We always want to make sure that the speakers were accessible to the attendees that were there. And it gets harder and harder the bigger you get, but we want those people to be able to be part of our community. They're not just speakers, they are leaders within the community. They're leaders within open source. They're leaders within financial services. I would say that if you find that there's a speaker that is not accessible during the conference, come find me. I'll be running around with my head cut off, but come find me, because if you really need to talk to one of those speakers, then, like, they should be there to talk to the rest of our community. So I'm going to leave it there. I will tell you what's coming on the horizon for day 2 is all about AI. We have two tracks that are focusing on AI, one on the more developer side, one on the policy side. And then we have 2 tracks that are focusing on security, and that's the compilations we're doing with Open SSF and the Confidential Computing Consortium as well. And then we have a hot topics track that they're lightning talks, rapid fire, all around the place, really good topics that we just could not live without. So we'll talk about that in our next time that I do this. But like I said, I just wanted to get this out, really talk about what we're planning on doing, why we do the things that we do within the conference. And if you have any questions about the conference, reach out to us at osff@finos.org. That's osff@finos.org. And I'm also going to put, if you've made it this far, I'm going to give you a code. If you do not already have a free ticket as a member, many of our members get in for free at different levels, then I'm going to give you a code, and I'm going to find it right now in real time. And here we go. Here's my code for you. I'm not going to put it into the description, but I have a certain amount of tickets that I can give away for free. And here's my code. GRIZZVIPOSFFNY. I have 5 free tickets right now that you can get with Grizz VIP OSFF New York. So GRIZZ VIP OSFFNY. And if you have any trouble with that code, just reach out to that osff@finos.org. And then if those codes are taken up, which I hope they are, then I have a 50% code as well. And it is 50G VIP OSFFNY. So you have the opportunity to either get a free ticket to OSFF by listening to this podcast, or a 50% discount if those free tickets are taken up. Just join us. It's a great time. To tell you the truth, like, the ticket price is at $575. I think that right now they're $675 because they've gone to the normal prices. The amount that you get back from this conference over a 2-day period, a day and a half, and the type of people that you're going to meet, $675 is a bargain. So at free or 50%, you can't beat that. All right. Look out for podcasts from some of our speakers that are coming out within the next week or so. And really, geez, as of recording right now, we're 38 days away from the conference. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Thank you for listening to me ramble for who knows how long. And again, you'll have a great time. Trust me. So with that, I'm going to say good day, good night, wherever you are.